48 names. That is how many individuals and groups the Nigerian government has just linked to terrorism financing. And the list is already causing serious reactions across the country. Some of the names are not new to public attention, but seeing them officially grouped under something this sensitive changes everything.
Think about it for a second. When the government says someone is connected to terrorism financing, it is no longer just talk or social media debate. It becomes a legal and financial issue. It means agencies are now watching closely. Accounts can be frozen, movements can be restricted, and investigations can go much deeper than before. And this is where it gets even more interesting. Among the names mentioned are people who have been part of major national conversations for years. Some are linked to separatist movements, some have been connected to negotiations in high-profile cases, others are groups that have already been under scrutiny for security reasons. Bringing all of them together into one list sends a very strong message. The government is not just focusing on those carrying out attacks, it is going after the money behind them. Because without funding, most of these operations cannot survive for long. Now, imagine how this works in real life. If someone is suspected of moving money that ends up supporting harmful activities directly or indirectly, the system starts closing in. Banks begin to monitor transactions more strictly, financial networks get flagged, and suddenly, everyday access to money becomes difficult. That is powerful. Because in today's world, money is everything. If you cannot move funds freely, your operations slow down. If you cannot access your accounts, your plans stop. And that is exactly the pressure this kind of move is designed to create. But here is where things become complicated. Not everyone will agree with this list. Some people will say this is a necessary step to protect the country. Others will question how these names were selected. There will be debates about fairness, about evidence, and about whether innocent people could be affected. And in Nigeria, once a topic touches security and identity, emotions run high very quickly. Now think about the impact on the people whose names are on that list. Even before any court decision, the public perception alone can change their lives. Once your name is associated with something this serious, people start looking at you differently. Business relationships can be affected, travel can become harder, even personal connections may begin to shift. That kind of pressure is not small. And for the average person watching this, it raises a bigger question. How deep does this issue go? Because if 48 names have already been identified, it suggests there is a wider network being studied behind the scenes. It means authorities believe there are systems, connections, and financial paths that go beyond just a few individuals. And that means this story might not end here. More investigations could come out, more names could surface, more actions could follow. Now let's step back and look at the bigger picture. Nigeria has been dealing with different security challenges for years. From insurgency in the northeast to unrest in other parts of the country, the focus has often been on physical action, deploying forces, securing areas, responding to threats. But this move shows a shift in strategy. Instead of only reacting on the ground, the focus is now also on disrupting the financial side. Cut the funding and you weaken the system. That is the idea. And it's not unique to Nigeria. Around the world, governments have started paying more attention to how money flows into dangerous activities. Because once you trace the money, you begin to understand the structure behind the problem. But again, it is not always straightforward. Money trails can be complex. Transactions can pass through multiple channels. And sometimes, people may not even realize the full impact of where funds are going. That is why cases like this often take time to fully unfold. Now, imagine you are someone just hearing about this for the first time. You see a headline, you recognize a few names, you start asking questions. What really happened? How strong is the evidence? What comes next? That curiosity is exactly why stories like this spread so fast. Because it's not just news, it's something that affects how people think about safety, trust, and the future of the country. And let's be honest, Nigerians pay attention to anything that connects power, money, and security. So this is not just a list, it's a signal. a signal that the government is tightening its grip on financial activities linked to insecurity, a signal that more structured actions may follow, and a signal that the conversation around national security is shifting in a new direction. But whether this move will actually reduce these issues in the long run, that is the real question. Because action is one thing, results are another. If this leads to stronger control, better monitoring, and real disruption of harmful networks, then it could be a major step forward. But if it creates confusion, controversy, or legal battles without clear outcomes, then the conversation will only become more complicated. And that is why people are watching closely, because this is one of those moments that could shape what happens next. If you're following this story and you want more clear breakdowns like this, make sure you like the video and subscribe. It helps the channel grow and keeps you updated on important topics like this. There is still more to unpack in this situation, especially when you start looking at how these names were identified and what specific actions could happen next.